And I remember for me then, I was, a little more competitive. I was like, I'm going to catch all the fish. And if I wasn't catching fish, I was getting a little frustrated. Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm changing flies and looking at what, people around me are doing. And now it's very different. I still, really love catching the fish and then releasing it back into the water and kind of taking a picture of it. But I also just love the setting. I mean, it's like a lot of things people like with golf or hiking. It takes enough of attention and focus. It requires a fair amount of focus. You're not thinking about your problems, and it really takes you away from everything while you're doing it.
Welcome, Troy. This is Troy Keller, everybody, from Snake River Meadow, which is a retreat center and event venue in Idaho, which is a bit of a a bit of a new location for us. I don't think Idaho's not. That's not the Midwest. That's still the West, right? Idaho considers
Oh,
itself as the West.
yeah, we're very much Rocky Mountain region. So we're on the northern end. So the top of the panhandle of Idaho touches Canada, and we have
Yeah,
oh man, I mean it's mostly mountains in the state. We have some of the great, like Sun Valley. We have some of the great
yeah.
ski resorts and Yellowstone National Park. We have a chunk of it. I know most of it's in Wyoming, but we have a good chunk of it.
Here, I'll come in and out of screen share mode here, so we can show people. I got the map, the Google map pulled up.
Oh,
we can
awesome.
we can come in and out of this. So for those of you that are international audiences, it's the United States. Idaho's here. I always get confused where the Midwest. I think Nebraska and the Dakotas are the Midwest. Is that the boundary of the Midwest? And then
Yes.
Idaho is considered the West. Idaho is
Yeah.
just north of Nevada and Utah.
Yeah.
So here you guys are, right by Wyoming, and we're zooming in, and so tell me a little bit about how did you find this property? What's the history of you guys coming into Snake River Meadow? Tell me a little bit about the history and how you guys got to be where you are.
I grew up in Idaho and I like to fish, to fly fish. I love, fishing rivers. And the part of Idaho that we were just looking at is referred to sometimes as Eastern Idaho, is really one of the meccas of fly fishing anywhere, and certainly in the United States.
I'm
There are
guessing
several
the
places.
Snake River's got something to do with fly fishing. Is this a
Yeah,
right by the property right here?
yeah. I like history, so don't get me too started. It's not an interesting bit, but that dry bed is an original channel of the river. It's used a lot for irrigation now, but it's an original channel. It's got fish in it that borders
This
our
thing?
property. Yes.
This is a bit of a
So
dam. It looks like it's a dam here. The dry bed. Here we go.
yes, that's right. It's the
Okay, so
river
fly
because of
fishing.
this river
Fly
is
fishing is the
yeah.
big pull here. Is the big
I was about
the
to start
draw.
talking about the potato farming in the area and how that
Oh.
Snake River makes that all possible, but yeah, we should probably not go down that rabbit hole. Uh,
But
yeah, so
fly
yeah,
fishing is a big deal, and you're a big fly fishing person, and there's a lot of fly
yeah,
fishing in Snake River. So let's go down
yeah,
that path. Let's go down that
sure.
bridge.
You bet. Yeah, so this part of the Snake River is called the South Fork of the Snake, and it's a famous fly fishing stream. Tons of fish and big fish, and if you ever visit it, you'll see kind of fishermen coming down in their drift boats, their dories. It's a famous part. Equally famous, if not more so, is another branch of the Snake River, which is just about 20 miles north of here, and that also is very famous. And they join together. That's called the Henry's Fork of the
Mm.
Snake River, or the North Fork, the Henry's Fork, and they join together a little further on. And then, of course, there's all the great fly fishing. If you go up above that, you have the Madison River, and you get into the all the
Yeah.
Montana rivers. And so it's just an area with an hour's drive. You can be on some of the great trout streams in America. So I've always liked it for that reason. Um,
And we're
and
talking
it's a con
what
yeah.
fish? We're talking trout. You said.
Yeah, yeah. So there's this part of the river. I mean, it's all trout, brown trout, rainbow trout, cutthroat trout. The
Yeah.
South Fork is known for this type of trout called, cutthroat trout, and they have Yellowstone cuts there.
Mm.
And the Yellowstone, there's nothing special other than that they're only native in certain areas, and that's one of them. And they're beautiful fish, and they're fun to catch. So that's a little,
Is there? I was
added
having a
piece of it.
debate diversion here. I was having a debate with somebody, or not a debate, but Is trout in any way related to salmon, or is it a completely different fish? Somebody was saying
Um,
that trout has got
yeah.
some relation to salmon.
Well, all I can add there, yes, they're not salmon. I think there are some. They're probably not too far off in the evolutionary, tree. But there is a type of trout called a brook trout, which technically is not a trout. It's technically a type of salmon. But
Mm,
it's called a brook trout. It looks like a trout, but it is a little different. So
okay.
that could have been where that confusion came from. But yeah.
Okay, got it. All right,
Um,
so it's Snake River Meadow. This is where the name of the venue comes from. And so tell me
yeah.
about how you came across the property and what was the initial draw and what made you fall in love with it.
Yeah, so we used to we've always years and years ago I bought like just a lot in that area, not right where we're at now, but I planned on building a little kind of fly fishing getaway cabin, and then, but I really fell in love. We never built on it though, because I always loved this area where we're at now, which is maybe a mile or two down the downriver. And I said, man, and I liked it because it's more kind of river bottomy. There's a lot of trees. The climate is just a smidge better because you're not higher up on the plain, and the river is closer. And I really like that. And so when this property became available, I just jumped on it, and at first we did not necessarily think of it as a retreat place. We just knew it was a great piece of property, and and it needed a lot of fixing up. There's some history to it, which we can get into if we have time. We like to.
Yeah, let's go. What's the history of Snake River Meadow?
Yeah, yeah. So when we bought it, we have 30 acres there of meadow, some pasture, some meadow, some trees, some cottonwoods and some pine trees, and what was on it was an old barn, two cabins, one more of a house than a cabin, the other one more of a cabin, and then this old venue, and the venue, which is you'll see in some of our pictures, and it was built by the prior owner of it who all through the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, yes, he built that and he would do these shows in it, like dinner theater shows. And they'd all
Oh,
through the summers and the winters, and it was famous all around. They would do, and we actually still do that with our neighbors at Mountain River Ranch. They still do the dinner shows in the winter, and they're kind of holiday type shows. You get on take a sleigh ride out to the property,
oh,
and you
great.
get off and you go in, and there's fiddlers and and they were so that's what the venue was known for and was great for a lot of years, but it kind of went they stopped doing that just as the owner was getting a little older, and then it kind of sat unused for a while, and it was in a little bit rough shape when we got it, and just from non-use, and so we spent a fair amount of time fixing it up and also kind of tweaking it for use for events.
Yeah,
And so a lot of weddings, retreats, family reunions.
nice.
It's kind of the event center for those, but then we have housing and lodging that we've also added that we should talk about. But that's kind of been built on. So that's the history. Everybody in town, everybody in the Idaho Falls area knows it for that.
Are you a bit
And
of a hub in the
yeah.
community, or do people know the property? They come around the local communities.
They do, yeah, yeah. And the founder was named Tran King. He passed away about 6 months ago, actually. And Tran
Hmm.
is yeah very well known in the community, and really built something great. He also built Mountain River Ranch, which is a camping RV lodging area that's very close, almost within walking distance from we are. And we
Hmm.
partner with them a lot when groups need extra lodging. They can go over there. So Tran built all that, and so we benefit a lot. What we're looking at here, this
Ooh, the
is
lodge.
uh, this is what we call the lodge, and it's brand new. We
Yeah, what's your vision?
spent
It looks like it's pretty nice and modern and clean.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
events, yeah, the people were coming up, or they wanted more lodging. They said the cabins are great, but we need to bring a full wedding group, or if we're gonna do a retreat, we need, more than just a couple
Yeah.
houses, more bathrooms, more kitchens. So we built that lodge, and it has a suite on the end that has a kitchen and three bathrooms and four bedrooms. And then we also have units, like kind of hotel style. So you see some of
Hmm.
those in some of the photos. There are three of those in there. So we've upped our game. We used to be able to. comfortably sleep 20, no, yeah, maybe 15 or 18. Now we can do 30 plus
And on the whole property?
altogether on the
Yeah,
whole
great.
property. Yeah.
So we got
Hmm.
22 in this lodge here. This is
Yeah.
beautiful. It's got this country modern but country style. Plenty of large uh, beds, queen size beds.
Yeah.
And so this is that north wing suite you're talking about with the kitchenette,
Yes, exactly. Full kitchen,
full
dining
kitchen,
room. Yeah.
and you
Two
got the
bedrooms
ranch
upstairs.
house.
And that's the ranch house is where that owner, that person I described, Tran King, when he first moved, he built that for his family. He had an old part of it. He told me one day was an old barn that he converted into a living room, and then he added on to it over the years. And the ranch
Amazing.
house is so cool. Some people come out and they say, "Hey, we love the new lodge, but we actually want to stay in the ranch house."
Yeah, the ranch
That's
house
got,
has that homey feel.
oh yeah,
And 3 bedroom, 2 bath, master bedroom, queen bed. Okay.
yeah,
Amazing. This is
great
so beautiful. Are
views.
these pretty close to the lodge and the this ranch house? Are they pretty close to each other in
Yeah, they're
walking
they're on
distance?
different sides of the property. They're definitely walking distance, but also far enough away that, if you want to be, if like like, if you have maybe two groups, two families that are meeting there, whatever, one can feel a little bit separated, but yeah, they're a 5 minute walk from each other, but the pasture's between each of them.
Great. And then we got this cottage, which is a bit of a standalone thing. 1 bedroom with a queen bed,
Uh-huh.
attached
It's on the same
bathroom.
side of the property as the ranch house, and in fact, the daughter of Tran, she and her husband built it when they were early in their marriage, and so it's really cute. People love that too. In fact, during the off season when we're not doing the retreats and weddings, we will just sometimes put that up on vacation rentals, and it's
Hmm.
super popular. Um,
Amazing.
it,
So 3 structures where there's accommodations and
mhm.
um, total occupancy you said for the whole property is up to,
Let's see, whatever it says here. So it's the 22 plus the four in the cottage, and I
yeah,
think eight or so in the ranch house.
call it
So
30 and
yeah,
change.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, amazing.
And then we
That's
also have a barn, which up until this year was just sitting there and did not really doing much. We don't have any pictures of it. We need to get some up. But
okay.
we
Yeah.
replaced the roof,
Is
and
that this
we and
thing?
it's
This is the barn?
no, that's the venue.
This is the
We
venue.
call that, which is
There's
called the
another
venue.
structure.
There's what has always been an actual barn, and we cleaned it out and replaced the roof. And this year we're going to add, it'll be like a game center. So we've got some,
Oh,
wood floor in there, and there'll be like an exercise corner and a video game corner, and then some tables and some dart boards and just a place for people to hang out. And we'll see, but I think it's going to be very popular.
amazing. What is honey? You guys have beehives on property?
We do, yeah, yeah. Uh, it's bees do. Last year was a tough year on bees, not just for us, but for everybody. But we partner with, Randy and Chell King are the ones who know how to do it, and we have our hives out there, and they manage them, and they're on the other side of the property, so they don't bother people who are there on doing events, and they thrive on the cotton trees and the meadows and some of the crops in the nearby area. So the honey does pretty well, and a lot of our guests, will sell or give them as kind of party favors to our guests these little like sample honeys, and it's right there on the property, and so
That's
it's fun.
great. That's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
delicious too. It's like really really kind of a soft like a pure mild flavored honey. It's really great.
Great. Okay, so historically you've done a lot of weddings, but clearly this venue can be used for retreats, um, as an entire venue buyout. Let's talk about some of the activities. So we said that there is the venue available, and this can be, I guess, converted into different uses for the space.
Hmm.
I saw one picture where I think there's tables inside. So this is the venue. So we
Yes.
can use this for yoga or any other activities, group gatherings that
Hmm.
may need to happen here. Is this also where meals are served, where there's
Yeah.
meals?
Yeah, we have a commercial kitchen there, and so what we'll frequently do is, especially for the retreats, how we manage those is meals, will be served in the venue here, but it's got lots of space. So we'll also set up some of the tables if people want to do, we've done some crafts before, and such a great space for that. It's got doors that you can open on almost all sides. So when the weather's
Nice.
nice, we crack all those open, and it's like, it's almost like having outdoor hangout with lots of shade and bathrooms in the kitchen. So it looks rustic and basic, but it's got actually a lot of features, a lot of use you can use it for.
Yeah, amazing. I love it.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
what's the core? What kinds of retreats do you think you would see here? Obviously, there's a lot of flexibility with how a group might use the space, but you've got the nature, you've got the Snake River Meadow, the Snake River itself for fishing. So, do you
Yeah.
see fishing retreats and groups coming through specifically to spend time doing fly fishing and then have other activities as well? Or what are some of the activities that people could do while they're there?
Yeah. And would you be able to go to our website? I can show
Yeah,
you. We have a list
absolutely.
of, so we do two kinds of,
What do you
kind of
have now?
two approaches to retreats. Um, uh, on the one hand, we will do like an organized retreat where people sign up and come, and it's like a women's retreat or a yoga retreat. We also do,
As a group.
yeah, that's kind of either your own group or you're joining with a group that everything's going to be scheduled and you just kind of show up.
Hmm.
But we also do these what we call stay and play retreats, and
Hmm.
maybe it's two or three or four of you or six of you or just you, whatever. You come and you stay with us, and then and if you scroll down a little further, we will basically customize an itinerary for you. So some of these like the watercolor painting Leslie Redhead does. She's the artist. So for that's like a dedicated retreat, and we've got that scheduled, I think, later in the summer, and that you would come out and do watercoloring with her. She does those, in other places too, in Europe, and she's really great. But the rest of these, you can just say, look, I like to mountain bike. We have, I wouldn't say we're not Moab, but we
Hmm.
are. There's some unbelievably fun mountain biking. It's if you like forest trails where you're going
Yeah.
for miles and miles, where you break out of the forest and have great views of the valley and come back into the forest. Not a ton of climbing, some climbing. Uh, so come to us. We will, show you, tell you where to do it. You can rent one of our bikes or bring your own. We'll set you up. We'll, drop you off at the trail, pick you up afterwards, or go with you. If I'm up there, I'll just go with you. Uh, we have hiking. We have a couple of kind of young college kids on our staff, and they'll take you on. So there are some really cool hikes in the area. The fly fishing that we mentioned, that's a little. I mean, so well, pausing on the fly fishing, we also have a stocked pond on the property.
Hmm.
So and that's fun if you want to just like practice your casting and catch a few fish right there. Deal
Yeah.
done. There's no like cost to
This is the
that.
pond where this is the pond.
No, that's the river.
This
So
is
if you
Snake
want
River.
to,
Okay.
yeah, if you want to go out on the river, I can definitely like just show you some places to wade fish. But normally the adventure would be you hire a guide, and we know the guides in town, so we would set you up with that, and that would be a full day kind of experience. Um, there's also a kind of a fly fishing guru in town we partner with, and he does rod building. And he teaches classes, so he can come out and maybe you just want to spend an hour learning how to fly fish. He'll come out and do that, like teach you how to cast, how to tie the knots, or if you want to build your own bamboo rod or your own or your own graphite rod. He'll come out and he can do that's a 2 or 3 day commitment, but he can do that as well, and that's
Yeah.
really really neat from a craft standpoint. Um, and then
And
then we'll kind of help you explore the area. Yeah.
oh yeah, you're
Um,
90 minutes from the Tetons.
we are, uh, so here's one of the magical things. You fly into the Idaho Falls Airport, so you can get there from a lot of the surrounding, from Salt Lake, and then we are about a 20-minute drive from the airport. You go straight out of town towards Swan Valley Highway, and pretty soon you're right where we are, which is kind of the entryway to the Caribou-Targhee Mountains, and so it's super convenient. And then this area is just magically located. You're like you were just saying, we're an hour and a half from Yellowstone, an hour and a half from a Teton
Wow.
National Forest. It's
So
national
is that
park.
something you
It's
could do a day trip out to Yellowstone or the Teton National Forest, or is that more? Would that be more than a day trip out and back?
um you we do it. You could definitely do it as a day trip. It's a it's a good all together. You're going to be 3.5 hours on the road, going and coming, and you can and those parks get pretty crowded, but you can go there and then come back, and you're kind of in our quiet place.
Hmm.
Those falls that you see right there are just not just up the road, but maybe 40 minutes away. I tell you, they are stunning. Like some of the most amazing falls that you'll see in your lifetime. Yeah.
And then horseback rides. Do you guys have horses on property, or do you have a vendor that brings them out?
We have a vendor, they're just across the river from us. We do sometimes there are horses and other people's horses are kind of we have a corral, and so sometimes horses will be stationed there. But yeah, you can either they come to our property or you can go across the river, and they have some trails that are really neat too. So it's kind of either way. This photo was on our property at a
Nice.
reunion that a family was doing last year.
Then we got hot
Um,
springs close. I guess this is more of a public hot springs.
It is. It's called High C is the name of the family. Also, a lot of history there. They were built over 100 years ago, and they have grown their operation over time. So they've got a little executive golf course, which is very shady, really nice. They've got, zip lines and hot springs in there. Yeah, quite literally 5 minutes away.
Oh, what's this? You got a sauna on the property?
Yeah,
Great.
that's right behind the lodge, and behind the sauna is that branch of the river. So a couple people, I had the idea, but I didn't know if people would do it. We've had two people now who've come. They'll go in the river, do kind of a cold plunge, and then get in the sauna, and then the
Nice.
lodge is just right there, so it's fun. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it seems like this would be a real active adventure retreat. This would be an ideal place for that, where you can have a combination of indoor activities in that event venue, and even within the ranch house itself, you could have some gatherings with your group. You
Yeah.
could get 20 people, 30 people, do a venue buyout, go out and do excursions. The fly fishing is obviously a big attraction here and a big reason to come. And what I love about this is that you've got these fly fishing classes where, let's say, okay, so you got options. Let's say there's a bunch of guys and they're really into fly fishing and they can come out here and fly fish to their heart's content. Let's say there's some folks that really love fly fishing and maybe their partner isn't as experienced in it, so they can come in and organize one of these classes that would be more appropriate for beginners. And then that's a shared experience that you can have and introduce your partner to fly fishing, um, like as a shared passion. So that's a great opportunity to bring somebody along that might be in the more beginner or intermediate levels. So that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, groups, obviously, in like outdoorsy is the vibe. Um, and then I would definitely have it be as a perk that you can go to the national parks as well as a day trip. So you could easily spend a week here, fill your cup with the nature vibes, and then also at the same time have some yoga and have some watercolor painting and indoors as well and relax. How does this yoga work? Is this daily classes, or is this like if a group is coming, you would book the instructor to come in and run some classes for you, or are these classes happening on a daily basis if individuals or couples want to come on their kind of what we call personal retreats?
Yes. So we've done it both ways. So Maggie, who's featured here, is a will come and do maybe twice a year. We'll do a whole weekend that's it's mostly focused on yoga, and she will you'll do it 2 or 3 times a day, and then do some other fun things in the in between hikes and saunas, and she is and so those are pretty yoga focused retreats. But frankly,
So
anytime someone comes
are
out.
those Maggie's retreats that people could sign up for, or is she doing yoga classes and you can come on a personal retreat and some kind of book time and just join the class as she's teaching it, or are they
Oh, good
her
question.
retreats?
They're her retreats. Yeah, we do. I
Okay.
mean, we host them together, and yes. So you come and you kind of spend the weekend with her doing the retreat, doing the yoga and some other activities, like I said. But then if someone comes out and says, I'd like to, do yoga for the morning. If there are a group of them or for enough of them, then we'll either if Maggie's available, if not, there are other people. The nice thing about being close to Idaho Falls, really someone could say, look, I want to stay with you guys. I know you have all these facilities that we could bring our 6 person or a 10 person group and do a craft or or have kind of a spa day. Um,
Hmm.
we know all the people who do that in the area. They will come to you and it'll you'll get to stay. The magical thing about the property is that we have just so many lot of wide open space, privacy, the venue, which is again, fully capable of whether it's food or music or and in the barn now is, for games and recreation. So I think we just have a place where you can almost bring anything to us. And I'm one thing I'm excited for is for people to say, "Can we do this?" And I'll say, "Yes, let us figure that out for you."
Nice. So you do have you assist with the planning services as well. Somebody who might want to come in and doesn't have their retreat fully planned out can come and have a conversation with you and say, "Hey, what are my options? Let's see if we can put together a package. I've got
Mhm.
20 people, 30 people, like this group that wants
Mhm.
to come out, and let's look at the different activities and options available to us." And then you can pull in the vendors as needed to craft an experience, a week-long experience.
Exactly. We'll come pick you up at the airport. We're going to be full service in that respect. And even it doesn't need to be a group. It can be a couple if they want to come, because we have there's plenty of separate lodging if you want, depending on how private you want your experience to be. We have different sides of the property. We can make it very private for you. But then you can also join if there's other people there that are doing something that you'd like to be part of. Then we can make that happen. That's how we kind of call the stay and play. It's kind of a we'll host you and take care of you and you get to design your own itinerary.
What are some crises or like what has gone really wrong where it's like, okay, watch out for that landmine when you're organizing an event?
I think the thing that we encounter the most, which is maybe people will find a little funny, but is people try to bring to us, like they'll have conflicts in their own group, like who's staying where. Like I thought I was going to be in the cottage, and I thought, and they'll bring that to us, and we'll say, you guys
They're
sort
your
that out however
rooms,
you
you figure
want.
it out.
Yes, yes. So that's kind of funny. Um, But other than that, and again, the fact that we're not too far away from Idaho Falls, like we've had some people come that weren't really equipped for what they wanted to do, and no problem, the town is, it's half an hour away, so it's a little of a pain, but you can get to town and you can get whatever you need if needed. So
Like hiking equipment, hiking boots or backpacks or
exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
Yes, fishing gear, sunscreen. Yeah, yeah. Sunscreen's closer. We got that obviously, but we're big enough to have staff to help you, but we're not so big that we're not going to know your name or find your reservation. We're just kind of. I like where we're at. We're kind of that small, but big enough to that you can bring people with you.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm.
So I guess the tip would be think through the activities that you're planning for your event or retreat and create like this is one of many tips, but create a checklist of items for people to bring. And also, as a retreat organizer, you would want to have the backup plan around if people need to get additional equipment or if they're short on something, where you would go, where you would send them to get it. Because you don't want to leave people
Yeah.
behind when you're going on an activity. You want them to be able to be there with the rest of the group. So, like you said, it's great that there's a half an hour drive and you got all the stores available. And I'm sure there's tons of outdoor stores that have all kinds of equipment and gear and available.
Yeah, outdoor recreation's big out here, so there's plenty available.
I want to learn a little bit more about fly fishing. Let's touch on that again because I know very little about it.
Mm.
What is it like? What's it all about? Why is how is fly fishing different from regular? I mean, I've seen the long poles and they're casting and going back and
Yeah.
forth, but what's the whole idea behind fly fishing?
So traditional, like spinning reel, cast fishing, is baits or lures that you toss out and you kind of wait for the fish to come, but not always. Sometimes you're moving your lure around. Fly fishing, you are trying to not just send a food source, but it's all artificial everything you're using, you're trying to trick the fish basically, and you're not using bait at all. You're using these artificial, like handmade uh, flies, and you use
At the end of the string, at the end of the line, there's a little artificial
yes,
fly. So you're trying to
yes.
mimic the action of a fly on top of the water.
You pointed out an important difference, which is the gear. A fly fishing rod is longer. Also, the line is probably the most critical difference. The line is thicker and it's tapered. So you don't throw it out like you would with a spinning rod, where you kind of toss it out there. With the fly fishing, in order to manage your fly to get it to land the right place, you have this floating line that is tapered. So the whole movement of it, the energy comes from the line, from kind of almost like a whip, but don't whip it because you'll whip your fly off. So these smooth casts, and what you're doing is you're moving the line using the energy of the rod, but also the tapered nature of the line. That's why it looks so pretty in, like, in the movies, because
Yeah.
it's going behind you is just equally distant as it goes in front of you, and you're kind of moving the line like that, and then you settle it hopefully very naturally and very softly on the water, and that artificial fly at the end drops into a current if you're on a river. And the goal is for it to float naturally. And so you have to manage your line so you don't pull the fly around. So there's some technical ability and some art in that. But you want to get the fly to land very, very softly and to float very naturally, so that a fish underneath looks up and sees it and says, looks real to me, and
Hmm.
comes up. And there is, at least for me, there is no feeling in the world like seeing a trout kind of come out of the water, take your fly off the top of the surface, and go back down. It's just visual. You see everything, and then you set it. So there's definitely more skill involved, but people don't need to be like, oh, I could never do that, or it might be, or I don't want to spend a week learning how to do it. There are there you can catch fish the very first day.
Is fly fishing something that you can pick up and do casually, like within a day or two? Or is there a lot of training involved just to get out on the water?
So it's both, really. I mean, you could never, if you came to Snake River Meadow and you went to the you borrowed one from me, or you purchased some equipment at the store and said, "Where's the river?" That would be very challenging. Um,
But with a
but
guide, with an
with a
instructor.
with a guide, you're catching fish the first day. They'll definitely
Hmm.
spend an hour with you, and they'll teach you some techniques about simple ways to do what I was describing, like the and maybe that won't work for you everywhere where you're out on the river, but there are sections where that'll work just fine. And there are also techniques where you can do, nymphing, which is under the surface and a little easier than in certain cases than dry fly fishing. So it's something that if you had a guide, you would be fishing, an hour after, you met up with them, and you'd have a blast. In particular, if you rent, if you do a float trip, and this is how I started. I was immediately fell in love with it. You're on a float trip with a guide. So the guide is at the boat with the oars, and you're in front of the boat. Maybe a friend's behind. These are not boats with motors. This, again, you're floating kind of, softly most of the time down the river, and and so you're tossing your line out into the water. The guide has tied the fly on for you, told you what to use, giving you some instruction. You throw it out there. Because he's moving with the current, it's a lot easier than if you're wade fishing to try to manage where your fly is. So the guides, even though you might not recognize it, the guide is doing a fair amount of the work for you. And even if you've never fished, even if, yeah, I've had friends who've come and loved it and said, I don't really I feel like I can check that off the box. I really loved it. It's not really, calling to me beyond that, but I had a glorious day. Weather was great, and we hung out. I caught some fish, took some pictures, and so I think it is something that a lot of people want to do at least once. Yeah.
Why?
Mm.
What's the draw? What's the draw with fly fishing compared to, was it cast fishing?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is the setting. When I was younger, I started fly fishing as a kid, but really not didn't get serious about it until I was in my 20s. And I remember, for me then, I was, a little more competitive. I was like, I'm going to catch all the fish. I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to, see how I'm going to take my tally. And if I wasn't catching fish, I was getting a little frustrated. Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm changing flies and looking at what, people around me are doing. And now it's very different. I still, really love catching the fish and then releasing it back into the water and kind of taking a picture of it. These fish are just some of the most gorgeous creatures. But I also just love the setting. I mean, it's like a lot of things people like with golf or hiking. It takes enough of attention and focus. It requires a fair amount of focus. You're not thinking about your problems, and it really takes you away from everything while you're doing it. Whereas if you're bait fishing, most of the time you're thinking about your problems because you're there and you're sitting on the edge of the dock or whatever. And so it takes focus and then
Because
again
there's more action, there's more things to do. You're more present with the fishing as opposed to just having your line there and sitting and waiting.
100%. Yeah,
Uh huh.
you are when you're bait fishing. Not all the it's a stereotype, but a lot of the time you're just really kind
You
of
just
hanging
kind of sit
out.
there and you kind of roll it and just cast it out and roll it
Yeah,
back.
that,
There's
then there's a
not a lot
brief
of
moment of
action.
action. Yeah, but for fly fishing, the entire time you're working. You're managing your line. You're getting it out there. Okay, no fish here. Got to move, hiking up or down the river. You're waiting. It can be very exhausting, actually, but like again, in a good way. So it's very active activity.
It's mentally stimulating at the same time.
Yes, and it kind of for a lot of us, it kind of that hunter gatherer thing. It kind of it checks that box. So when you do catch one, there's that satisfaction. And the setting is just fantastic. Like we're in a canyon, the Snake River, the South Fork of the Snake. The canyon opens up where we are, but you can you're kind of there are mountains all around, and the setting's gorgeous. And so I think that's a lot of it for me. I like exploring new places to fish as well. Again, because they tend to be in the mountains, and so
I can imagine if there
mm,
is that. I'd love to experience it myself one day, but I can imagine if there is more activity involved, like you're putting the line out, bringing it back, and you're managing stuff, and if you're physically and mentally engaged in the process more than just sitting and waiting, it it might lead to more satisfaction and a sense of accomplishment because you've had to make that investment into it, and it's not luck. I mean, probably a bunch of fishing aficionados are going to come at me in the comments and say there's a lot of strategy and skill and all kinds of fishing. But I can just putting myself in your
yeah.
shoes and I'm imagining that like if you're actively engaged, you might feel like yeah, I did something. You should have a sense of accomplishment.
I think that's right. And like I said, yeah, to your point, I don't want to get on anyone's bad side. All types of and I've fished all and I enjoy all of it. But this is just this really kind of for the reasons that you described, really does it for me, in all respects. A lot of people, like deep sea fishermen, there's I don't understand how there's so much knowledge required for that. And those people have a lot of fun. I've gone out on guided trips doing that, and I've enjoyed it, but nothing to compare, at least for me. Again, just because of some of the things that we mentioned. But you're not too far. If you're in Vancouver, there's not great trout fishing right there, but not far away. I think I'm going to Calgary
Mm,
next year, and looking forward to that. That's a great another one of those kind of special places with some great trout fishing.
amazing. All right, Troy. So if people are interested in either the what we call personal retreats, like booking on your own schedule and coming in for a couple days, 5 days a week, or renting the venue full on, what is your process like? How should I'm guessing there's contact forms and stuff, and we'll put links in the description below. But what's your process in terms of contacting you and making a decision as to what experience they want to create?
Yeah, people, they need to take the first step and reach out, of course, but they can do it with a contact form. They can call us, they can send us an email, and but then it's on us, and we'll reach back out and say, okay, what do you have in mind? And again, because we're small enough, it's no problem for us to we love having conversations with people. Like, how many people in your group? What do you want to do? What time of year? And we just talk through it and sort it out. So that's basically how it works
So
in a
even
nutshell.
individuals or couples or very small groups could call and have a customized experience as a couple and just come out for a week.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the only kind of difference between that and a group is going to be able to rent us, like you said, for a full week or for a full weekend. If it's a couple, we'll have to, and we totally can, but the weekends tend to get filled up by the full group. So
Hmm.
please come out and stay with us, early in the week. I'm talking about, of course, like the summer and the
Yeah.
and the main season. and you'll have a blast. You'll stay with us when there aren't crowds around. You'll be there, and if even if it's just two of you or four of you, if you don't have the property yourself, it'll just be, a few of you on different sides of it, and you'll have a blast. And that's, so I think we can offer a lot to that situation as well.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Well, we from time to time do road trips, and so I'll put this down on my road trip wish list to swing by Idaho and bring my drone and come capture some good drone footage of me learning how to fly fish.
Oh,
Hopefully,
deal.
hopefully looking smooth while I do it and not looking like I'm fumbling around.
Well, that's an important part of it. You don't want to look like an idiot. You got to look good when you're fly fishing. No, I'm teasing. With waders, you usually don't. So,
Awesome. Troy, thanks so much for your time. Let's keep in touch. And like I said, I'd love to come and visit the property myself at some point. So maybe we'll organize a
absolutely.
site visit.
Love to have you. That'd be great. Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks, Amir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks
Troy.
for doing
We'll
this.
talk soon.